So just speaking about the NHL and how it goes about supporting its players in these instances. So drug and substance abuse has always been a major issue in sports. We know that. But the fascinating thing is that just in terms of the different ways that the four major North American sports sort of deal with the issues differently. So in terms of the NFL, MLB, and NBA, they have very stringent and long suspensions as a deterrent in place. But often this is not enough to solve the issue at its core. So in your opinion, you've sort of went through some of the programs that the NHL's had that's sort of incorporated for their players. Do you think that there needs to be more outlets for athletes, specifically hockey players, in terms of helping them I guess sort of heal and recover from substance abuse? Because the sad reality is that there are many hockey players right now that are struggling through the same things that you had to, but maybe there's just not enough outlets right now at their disposal.
Well, I don't like to single out sports. This
Hmm.
is a societal issue. It has absolutely nothing to do with, sports or whatever. I think everybody at some point in their life struggles with something. And like I said, we have not created that space in society where, we can talk about trauma. And, athletes are no different than, your anybody who's walking down the street. Everybody has experienced some sort of traumatic thing in their life, and like I said, we have not created a safe space in society where we can, really open up and talk about this stuff and without judgment, without, and what this thing needs is compassion. Is that everybody has a story, and that there's and I think everybody should be able to tell their story whichever way they want because it's their story. And so, like I said, until we create, that safe space and that safe environment, the stigma will continue to be there.
Right, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is bigger than sport. Like this is definitely a societal issue en masse. And in terms of the compassion that you were talking about, one of the main things that I really noticed in terms of dealing with some of the trauma I've dealt with in my life is grasping onto the concept that like tolerance and understanding come from exposure, where you're talking about these stories that need to be told. I was just wondering what types of like so you're talking about these changes that society needs to implement.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the changes that you would like to see specifically? Like what are some of the maybe whether it be having less stigma surrounding just being able to have a safe space to talk about these things, for example. What would you like to see specifically? I'm very interested.
Well, I have been doing this for a long time. And the most effective type of therapy that I've come across that costs absolutely nothing is you get a bunch of people in a room, you use vulnerability, and vulnerability means, somebody getting up and telling their story of trauma. And by doing that, you create safety. And then when you have safety in the room, that's when the magic of healing happens. And, basically, when I get up and speak, there comes a point in my speech where it gets really quiet, like eerily quiet, where you can hear a pin drop. And as a speaker, that's obviously when I know I've done my job because I got my audience to self-reflect on their own trauma experience. But at the same time, that silence is those people are holding the space for me to tell this story of trauma, right? And so it's very simple. You get a bunch of people in a room who are curious about healing. You use vulnerability to create safety. And then when you have safety, it's amazing how many people, will stand up in a group and in a room and start to talk about their own trauma experience. And it's as simple as that. And that's that safe space, that I'm talking about.